Earth was in peril. The galaxy was no longer a place of wonder and exploration, but a battlefield. Alien armadas had descended on the planet, their massive ships filling the skies and obliterating anything in their path. Humanity had fought back with everything it had, but the odds were stacked against them. The alien forces were powerful, advanced, and relentless. On the last line of defense stood the Resolute, Earth's newest and most advanced battleship. It was humanity's final hope. This massive warship was unlike anything the universe had seen before, built with technology from all over the Earth, and combined with a few secrets that no one outside of the highest military circles knew about. It was Earth's last chance to save itself from total annihilation. Captain Nathan Drake stood at the command deck of the Resolute. He had been in countless battles, seen the best and worst of humanity's forces, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The crew was ready, but even they couldn't shake the uncertainty in their hearts. The enemy's fleet was enormous, and Earth's forces were outnumbered by thousands. "All systems are go," the voice of the ship's AI, known as Athena, echoed through the command room. "We're ready for battle, Captain." Drake nodded. The ship was ready, but it was the crew that worried him. They were young, inexperienced, and many of them had never been to war. But they had trained for this day, and he had faith in them. Still, it wasn't enough to quiet the storm inside him. What if this wasn't enough? What if humanity's last hope was too little, too late? The massive warship lurched forward as it made its way into the heart of the battlefield. Outside, the alien ships loomed like shadows, their weapons powered and ready to strike. The Resolute was surrounded, but its weapons were unmatched, and its armor nearly indestructible. But the captain knew that there was no way to predict what would happen next. "Incoming message," Athena's voice interrupted his thoughts. The screen flickered, and an alien face appeared on the screen. It was a leader of the alien forces, a general who had taken down countless civilizations before Earth's. Human. The alien general's voice was cold and menacing. "This is your last chance. Surrender now, and we will allow you to live under our rule. Fight, and we will erase you from existence." Drake's hand clenched into a fist. He had heard threats like this before. He had seen entire planets crumble under the weight of such promises. But Earth was different. They would never surrender. They would fight until their last breath. He turned to his crew, a group of young men and women who had trained their whole lives for this moment. "Get ready. We're not going down without a fight." As the Resolute powered its way into the battle, the first shots were fired. Humanity's future depended on this moment, and Captain Nathan Drake would do everything in his power to make sure they wouldn't be erased from the stars. The alien armadas loomed in the distance, their massive ships darkening the sky like a storm on the horizon. They were here, and Earth's fate was about to be decided. The Resolute cut through the void of space, heading straight into the heart of the enemy's forces. The crew stood silent at their stations, the weight of what was at stake heavy on their shoulders. Captain Nathan Drake stood at the helm, staring at the tactical display on the main screen. He saw thousands of enemy ships closing in, each one bristling with weapons, their intentions clear: destroy Earth and wipe out humanity once and for all. It was hard to believe that only hours ago, Earth had been quiet, peaceful. Now it was about to face the most critical battle in its history. "Captain," the voice of Athena, the ship's AI, broke the silence. "We've detected unusual activity from the enemy fleet. They're rearranging their formation. It seems they're preparing for something." Drake's eyes narrowed. "What's their plan?" "I don't know yet," Athena replied, her voice calm but urgent. "But whatever it is, they're trying to keep us guessing." Drake clenched his fists. The aliens had underestimated humanity before, but not this time. The Resolute was Earth's last line of defense, and it was packed with technology and weapons that no alien army could have predicted. It was humanity's ultimate weapon, and it would not fail. Suddenly, the screen flashed. A massive enemy vessel, far larger than anything they had seen before, appeared in front of them, blocking the path to Earth's defenses. It was the flagship of the alien armada, its dark hull lined with weapons of unimaginable power. "They're here," Drake said, his voice low but steady. "We have to hold them off. All hands, prepare for combat." The crew scrambled to their stations, every movement precise and practiced. They had trained for this moment, but now that it was here, the tension was almost unbearable. The Resolute's massive weapons systems powered up, and Drake could feel the ship hum with energy, ready to unleash destruction on the alien forces. The enemy ships began to move, their weapons charging. The first volley of energy blasts shot toward the Resolute, but the ship's shields flared to life, absorbing the impact without a scratch. The alien ships fired again, but the Resolute was already moving, evading the blasts with expert precision. "Firing main cannons," shouted Lieutenant Alvarez, one of the ship's gunners. The massive guns on the Resolute's belly roared to life, sending a blast of energy streaking toward the enemy flagship. The impact was immense, tearing through the alien ship's shields and causing a huge explosion on its side. The alien fleet was not prepared for such power. The Resolute moved in quickly, its guns firing relentlessly as it tore through the ranks of enemy ships. The crew cheered as their first shots landed, but Drake knew better than to get too comfortable. This was just the beginning. "They're regrouping," Athena warned. "It's not over yet, Captain." Drake's face hardened. The alien forces were powerful, but they had no idea what Earth was capable of. He wouldn't stop fighting until the Resolute was the last ship standing. "Keep pushing forward," Drake ordered. "We can win this. We will win this." With the full force of Earth's battleship behind him, Captain Drake led the crew into the heart of the enemy fleet, ready to make them regret underestimating humanity. The battle was just beginning. The battle raged around the Resolute, and Earth's forces were finally showing their strength. The massive alien fleet, once confident of its victory, was beginning to struggle. Captain Nathan Drake watched as the Resolute's weapons tore through the enemy ships with deadly precision. Each blast, each strike, brought humanity one step closer to victory. "Captain, we've taken down 3 enemy capital ships in the last 5 minutes, Lieutenant Alvarez reported, his voice filled with a mix of awe and disbelief. "The rest of their fleet is starting to scatter." Drake didn't let himself relax. He knew the alien forces weren't the type to retreat easily. They would fight until the very end, and the Resolute had only just begun to scratch the surface of what they could do. "Stay alert, everyone," Drake ordered. "They'll come back harder. This fight is far from over." The enemy flagship, still standing strong despite the damage it had taken, moved to the front of the remaining ships. Its guns powered up, and the alien forces seemed to gather their strength for one final assault. The alien general, who had been taunting Earth forces earlier, had no intention of giving up so easily. "Captain," Athena's calm voice broke through the tension. "I'm detecting something strange. The enemy flagship is emitting a signal unlike anything we've intercepted before. It's powerful, and it's directed right at us." Drake's brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" "It's hard to say, but it's a form of communication," Athena replied. "It's too strong for normal communications, likely an attempt to overwhelm our systems." Drake hesitated. "Prepare countermeasures. We don't know what they're trying to do." The Resolute's crew worked quickly, activating systems designed to protect against enemy technology. The alien flagship fired again, but this time, the blast was different. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a pulse, a shockwave that hit the Resolute head-on. The ship shuddered under the force of the impact. "Shields are holding, but we're taking some damage," reported Lieutenant Garcia, the ship's engineer. "We need to move faster, Captain." Drake's mind raced. The alien forces had clearly developed a new tactic, one that Earth wasn't prepared for. He knew if the Resolute couldn't shake off this new assault, the tide of battle could change. But he also knew one thing: he couldn't let fear control them. The future of Earth depended on this fight. "Get us in closer," Drake ordered. "We're going to close the distance, full speed ahead. The Resolute surged forward, heading straight for the heart of the alien fleet. The alien flagship unleashed another wave of energy, but this time it wasn't aimed at their shields. It was targeting the ship's weapon systems. For a moment, it seemed like the Resolute might falter, but the crew didn't give up. "Return fire," shouted Lieutenant Alvarez, his hands flying over the controls. Main cannons at full charge. The Resolute's guns roared to life, sending a series of powerful blasts toward the alien flagship. The first strike hit the flagship's shields, causing them to flicker and weaken. The second shot broke through, sending a massive explosion tearing through the alien ship. The alien fleet began to scatter, unable to hold their formation. The Resolute had taken the first step toward turning the tide, but Drake knew the battle wasn't won yet. They had made their move, and the enemy would be regrouping for another strike. "We're not finished yet," Drake muttered under his breath, his hand resting on the controls. "Keep the pressure on them." The battle was far from over, but for the first time, it seemed that humanity might just have a chance. The Resolute sailed through the chaos of battle like a force of nature. With every blast of its mighty cannons, enemy ships were reduced to fragments in space. Captain Nathan Drake stood at the helm, his eyes never leaving the tactical screen. His crew had found their rhythm, and the alien armadas were beginning to panic. What was once a war of overwhelming odds was slowly becoming a war that Earth might win. "Captain, we've inflicted serious damage to their front line," Lieutenant Alvarez reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "Their formation is breaking apart. They didn't expect this from us." Drake kept his focus sharp. "Keep pushing forward. They'll regroup and retaliate. We can't give them a chance." The enemy fleet, once so sure of victory, was now scrambling to reassemble. Alien ships that had once filled the vastness of space were now scattered, retreating from the relentless fire of the Resolute. But even as the enemy faltered, they were far from defeated. "They're regrouping," Athena, the ship's AI, said in a calm, measured voice. "It seems they're trying to pull their remaining forces into a tighter formation, preparing for a counterattack." Drake's fingers tapped lightly on the console in front of him. "What are they waiting for? Another weapon?" "It's possible," Athena replied. "Their flagship is transmitting a new signal. It's different from the last one, but it's not clear yet." Drake's instincts told him to be wary. The aliens had already shown they were not just brutal warriors but cunning strategists. He couldn't afford to let his guard down now. "All hands, stay alert," he commanded. "Prepare for their next move." The enemy ships slowly began to close ranks, forming a new battle line. Their flagship, though heavily damaged, remained the centerpiece of their fleet. It was clear that the aliens were trying to buy time, perhaps hoping to regroup and launch one final assault. "Captain," Lieutenant Garcia said, looking up from his station, "the enemy flagship is emitting a strong energy pulse again. It looks like they're powering up something big. I can't tell if it's a weapon or a distraction." Drake's heart raced. If they didn't take the flagship down soon, it could be the turning point of the battle. He knew the Resolute had the firepower to finish it, but the longer they waited, the more dangerous it became. "Prepare to fire everything we've got," Drake ordered. "Full speed ahead. We're taking that flagship down now." The crew worked with precision, readying the Resolute's weapons for the decisive strike. As the ship barreled toward the alien flagship, the massive guns of the Resolute hummed to life, preparing to unleash a barrage that could shatter the enemy's hopes of victory. The enemy fleet attempted to intercept the Resolute, but they were too slow. With pinpoint accuracy, the ship's cannons fired, the energy blasts screaming through the vacuum of space toward the alien flagship. The first strike hit its shields, causing them to flicker and crack. The second blast pierced through the flagship's outer hull, sending debris flying in all directions. The alien ships around the flagship hesitated, unsure of how to respond. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Alvarez said, his voice filled with relief. "The flagship is down. The enemy is in disarray." The aliens had not been prepared for such an overwhelming response. For the first time in the battle, their confidence seemed shaken. The flagship, their symbol of power and control, was no more. The remaining alien ships were now disorganized and panicked. "Continue firing," Drake ordered, his voice firm. "Keep the pressure on them." As the enemy fleet scrambled to regroup, Drake felt a glimmer of hope. The tide was turning. Humanity had shown the galaxy that they would not be crushed, that Earth would not go down without a fight. But the battle was far from over. Drake knew the aliens wouldn't give up easily. As they pressed on, Captain Drake and his crew braced themselves for the next wave, determined to finish what they had started. The Resolute had dealt a powerful blow to the alien fleet. The flagship, the heart of their armada, was shattered, and the once proud invaders were now retreating in chaos. For a brief moment, it seemed as though Earth might actually pull through. But Captain Nathan Drake knew better than to get comfortable. The battle was far from over. "Captain, they're reorganizing," Lieutenant Alvarez said, his voice tense. "The remaining ships are pulling together. It looks like they're preparing for something big." Drake's eyes narrowed as he watched the tactical screen. The alien forces were regrouping, pulling their remaining ships into a tight formation. Despite the heavy losses, they weren't finished. The flagship may have fallen, but the alien armada still had strength. This wasn't over yet. "They're desperate," Drake muttered under his breath. "They'll throw everything they have at us now." Athena, the Resolute's AI, spoke up. "Captain, I'm detecting an energy buildup from their fleet. It's unlike anything they've used before. It could be a weapon, or it could be a trap. Either way, we need to be ready." Drake's mind raced. He had anticipated a counterattack, but this felt different. The enemy was cornered, and in his experience, a cornered animal was always the most dangerous. "Shields up," Drake ordered, his voice steady. "Increase speed. We need to keep the pressure on them while they're still trying to regroup." The Resolute surged forward, its massive engines propelling it through the debris of destroyed ships. The alien forces were clearly preparing for a final push, and Drake was determined to be ready. The enemy fleet's new formation shifted, and Drake could see that their remaining ships were now focused on the Resolute. They weren't just firing randomly anymore. They were targeting Earth's battleship with deadly precision. "Captain, they're locking onto our engines," Garcia, the engineer, reported. "If they hit us there, we'll be dead in the water." Drake's jaw clenched. He knew this was the moment that would determine whether they survived. The Resolute was built to withstand a lot, but the alien weapons they faced were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. If they could land a hit on the ship's core systems, it could all come crashing down. "Full evasive maneuvers," Drake commanded. "All weapons, fire on their lidships. We need to keep them off balance." The Resolute twisted and turned through space, narrowly dodging blasts from the alien fleet. The ship's cannons roared as it returned fire, each shot landing with deadly accuracy. But the enemy was not backing down. They were relentless, and their weapons were growing stronger with every passing second. "Direct hit to our aft shields," Alvarez shouted. "Shields are holding, but barely. We've got to get out of this kill zone." Drake's mind raced as he weighed their options. He could feel the sweat on his forehead, the pressure mounting. If they didn't take control now, it would be too late. But there was no way out. The Resolute had no place to retreat to. He looked at the faces of his crew, tired but determined. They had been through hell, but they weren't about to give up. Not now. "We can't run from this," Drake said, his voice calm but firm. "We'll face them head on. It's the only way to win this." The crew quickly adjusted, moving into position. The Resolute locked onto the alien ships, and with a deep rumble, its main cannons fired again, their beams lighting up the darkness of space. The shots tore through enemy ships, but the aliens continued to advance, their weapons charging. In that moment, the Resolute felt like it was the only thing left standing against the universe. But it was humanity's weapon, and humanity would fight until the very end. Captain Drake's grip on the controls tightened. This fight was far from over, and he would do whatever it took to make sure humanity had a future. The Resolute was taking a beating. Captain Nathan Drake watched the damage reports flash across his screen, his grip tightening on the controls. The ship's shields were weakening, and the enemy's relentless assault was beginning to take its toll. But the crew remained focused, their resolve unshaken. The alien fleet was not retreating. They were not backing down. If anything, they were more determined than ever to finish what they started. "Shields are at 40%, Captain," Lieutenant Garcia reported, his voice tense. "If we take another direct hit, we're in trouble." Drake knew they didn't have much time left. The Resolute was humanity's last hope, and the enemy knew it. They were closing in for the kill, trying to destroy Earth's final weapon before it could strike again. The enemy fleet was organizing, consolidating their firepower for a final decisive blow. "Captain, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup from the enemy flagship, Athena," the ship's AI warned. "It's more powerful than anything they've used before. They're getting ready to fire." Drake's eyes flicked to the tactical display. The alien flagship, though heavily damaged, was still operational. It had taken a beating, but it wasn't finished. The sheer size of it made it hard to ignore. If the enemy unleashed everything they had, the Resolute would be destroyed. "We have to make a move now," Drake said, his voice calm but urgent. "If we don't act fast, we won't survive the next attack." He turned to his crew. "Prepare the main weapons. We're going in. We'll strike before they can charge up their weapon." The crew quickly moved into action, their hands flying over the controls. Everyone knew what was at stake. The next few moments would decide everything. "Full speed ahead, Athena," Drake ordered. "Head directly for the flagship." The Resolute surged forward, moving with all its power towards the enemy flagship. The alien ships tried to intercept, but the Resolute was too fast, too powerful. Its weapons fired on full blast, tearing through the alien ships that dared to stand in its way. The Resolute wasn't slowing down. It was heading straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. "Captain, the flagship is about to fire," Alvarez shouted. "Hold on," Drake shouted back. "We'll take it down before they can fire. Just a little longer." The distance between the Resolute and the flagship closed quickly. The alien ships tried to block them, but there was no stopping the human warship now. Every blast that hit the Resolute was absorbed by its powerful shields, but the ship kept pushing forward, its guns blasting away at anything in its path. "Target locked on the flagship's core," Lieutenant Alvarez called out. "Firing now." The Resolute's main cannons lit up the dark expanse of space, sending a devastating blast straight at the alien flagship. The shot hit its mark, tearing through the flagship's shields and punching deep into its core. The enemy ship trembled, its energy pulse faltering as the core exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The alien fleet froze. For a moment, everything seemed still. The remaining ships hesitated, unsure of what to do. The loss of their flagship had thrown their entire operation into chaos. It was clear now. Earth had struck the heart of the enemy's power. "We did it," Lieutenant Alvarez said, a breath of relief escaping his lips. But Drake knew better than to relax. The battle wasn't over yet. The remaining enemy forces were still a threat, and they were sure to retaliate. But for now, Earth had won a victory, one that no one would ever forget. "We hold the line," Drake muttered to himself. "This isn't over." As the crew regrouped, they knew that the fight would continue, but for the first time since the battle began, humanity had a real chance to survive. The Resolute had shattered the enemy's confidence, and the path to victory was now within reach. The battle had taken a dramatic turn. Captain Nathan Drake watched as the alien fleet, once so confident and overwhelming, now seemed hesitant. Their flagship had been destroyed, and with it, the heart of their command. The Resolute had dealt them a crippling blow, but Drake knew better than to think the war was won. The enemy was not easily defeated, and their retaliation would come soon. "Captain, we've gained a momentary advantage," Athena, the ship's AI, reported. "The alien forces are regrouping, but their command structure is in disarray." Drake nodded. "We can't waste this opportunity. They may be disorganized, but they're still dangerous. We need to finish this. Shields are at 60%, but we're holding," Lieutenant Garcia added. "We've taken a few hits, but nothing we can't handle for now." The crew worked quickly to stabilize the Resolute and prepare for the next wave. Despite the damage, the ship was still in fighting shape, and the enemy had underestimated humanity's will to survive. The question now was whether they could capitalize on their victory before the aliens could adapt. As the Resolute moved forward, Drake looked at the tactical screen, where the scattered remnants of the alien armada were slowly coming back into formation. But this time, it wasn't the same. The once unified enemy fleet was now divided, weaker, and struggling to organize. "Captain," Alvarez called out from the weapons station, "we've identified a weak spot in their formation. We could hit their supply ships and cripple their remaining fleet, but we have to act fast." Drake didn't hesitate. "Do it. Full power to the forward guns. We're going after their supply ships." The Resolute's engines roared to life as the ship accelerated toward the enemy supply line. The remaining alien ships scrambled to adjust, but the Resolute was too fast and too powerful. As the ship closed in, Drake could see the enemy ships beginning to fire, trying to slow them down, but they were no match for Earth's might. "Firing," Alvarez shouted. The main cannons of the Resolute fired with deadly accuracy, striking the alien supply ships one by one. Explosions filled the space around them as the supply ships erupted in massive bursts of light. Each explosion sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet, causing further confusion and disarray. "Direct hits on all supply ships, Captain," Alvarez reported with a sense of relief in his voice. "The enemy is starting to lose their coordination." Drake watched as the alien fleet began to falter. With their supply lines cut off, they were no longer able to fight with the same strength. Their ships were retreating, disorganized and disheartened. The Resolute had broken their will. But even as the enemy fleet struggled, Drake knew they wouldn't give up completely. There were still enough of them left to pose a serious threat, and their desperation could make them even more dangerous. "We're not finished yet," Drake said, his voice firm. "Prepare for their counterattack. They won't back down that easily." As the Resolute continued its advance, the remaining alien ships gathered what strength they had left for a final desperate strike. But Drake had already made his decision. This was the moment to end it all, the moment when humanity would prove once and for all that they would not be erased from the stars. The tide of war had turned, but there was still one more battle to fight. And Captain Nathan Drake was ready. The battle was over. The enemy fleet had been shattered, and the once terrifying invaders were retreating into the far reaches of space. The Resolute had won, but the victory didn't feel as sweet as it should have. Captain Nathan Drake stood at the command deck, staring out at the wreckage of the alien armada. His crew had fought bravely, but now they were left to deal with the aftermath of what they had just endured. "Captain," Athena's calm voice cut through the silence, "the alien forces are retreating. Their fleet is in full retreat, and they've begun to withdraw from our territory." Drake nodded slowly, his face grim. "We've won the battle, but the war isn't over. We still don't know how far the alien forces are willing to go. They'll regroup, and they'll come back. We need to be ready for whatever comes next." The Resolute had taken heavy damage in the battle. The ship's hull was scared, and its systems were running on low power. The crew was exhausted, but there was no time for rest. Earth had survived today, but the galaxy was still a dangerous place. "Captain," Lieutenant Garcia called from the engineering station, "the ship's been through a lot, but it's still holding together. We've got some repairs to do, but we're in no immediate danger." Drake looked at the tired faces of his crew. They had been through a lot, and they had done what seemed impossible. They had taken on the greatest threat Earth had ever faced, and they had come out victorious. But even now, as they celebrated their hard-earned success, Drake couldn't shake the feeling that they were far from safe. "Captain, there's something else," Athena interrupted his thoughts. "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. It's not a threat, but it's a message." Drake raised an eyebrow. The aliens had never communicated in this way before. What did they want? "Put it on the screen," Drake ordered. The screen flickered to life, and a figure appeared. It was an alien, but not one of the soldiers they had fought. This alien was different. It was a leader, but its face was somber. The figure didn't speak right away. Instead, it seemed to be processing something. Finally, the alien spoke in a deep, echoing voice. "Human, you have proven yourselves more capable than we imagined. This victory is not just yours. It is a signal to the rest of the galaxy that Earth is not to be underestimated." Drake felt a chill run down his spine. The alien leader continued. "We will retreat for now. But this is not the end. We will return, and we will be ready. You will have no choice but to fight again." The screen went dark, and the transmission ended. Silence hung in the air. "We've made an impact," Drake said softly. "But it seems the war is far from over." The crew exchanged looks. The alien threat might have been pushed back for now, but they knew this wasn't the end of the story. The galaxy was vast, and Earth had just made its mark. As the Resolute sailed through the debris of the battlefield, the crew knew that their victory was only a temporary reprieve. Drake turned to his crew, his voice steady but determined. "This isn't the end. It's just the beginning. We've shown the galaxy what humanity can do. And next time, we'll be ready." The crew nodded in agreement. They had fought, they had survived, and they had proven that humanity could stand against anything the universe threw at them. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. The Resolute sailed into the unknown, its crew ready to face whatever came next. The victory was undeniable, but it had come at a high cost. The Resolute was battered, its once pristine hull covered in scorch marks and dents from the fierce battle. Yet, as Captain Nathan Drake gazed out at the endless stars, a sense of pride filled him. Humanity had done the impossible. They had not only survived the attack of an alien armada, but had also driven them back, leaving a permanent mark on the galaxy. But Earth's true test had only just begun. "Captain, the fleet is still retreating," Lieutenant Alvarez reported, his voice weary but strong. "They've left our space, but I'm not sure where they're going next." Their last transmission was unsettling. Drake didn't need to hear the report to know that the alien forces would return. This wasn't the end of the war, it was just a chapter. But one thing was clear: the Resolute had given humanity an edge they had never dreamed possible. Earth had a weapon now, one that could stand up to anything the galaxy could throw at them. "Where are we with repairs?" Drake asked, his gaze never leaving the stars. "We've stabilized the ship for now," Garcia, the ship's chief engineer, replied. "But there's a lot of work left to do. We'll need time to fully repair the damage and reload our weapons." "Good," Drake said, his voice steady. "We'll take that time. But we need to be ready for whatever comes next." Earth was not just surviving anymore. They were becoming a player in the galaxy. The Resolute had proven that humanity had the technology and willpower to stand toe-to-toe with the most powerful forces in space. But with this power came a responsibility that weighed heavily on Captain Drake's shoulders. What if Earth became a target? What if the galaxy's other races decided that humanity's rise was too dangerous to ignore? "Captain," Athena's voice interrupted his thoughts. "We are receiving a communication from Earth's government. They're requesting an update on the situation." "Patch them through," Drake ordered. The screen flickered, and soon the faces of several high-ranking officials appeared. The leader of Earth's government, President Simmons, spoke first. "Captain Drake, congratulations on your victory." The entire planet is celebrating the success of the Resolute. But we need to understand what happens next. What is the status of the alien forces? Are they planning another attack? Drake glanced at his crew before answering. The alien fleet has retreated for now, but we believe it's only temporary. They will return, and when they do, we'll be ready. The Resolute will stand guard, but we need to prepare for future threats. The galaxy is vast, and humanity is no longer hidden in the shadows. We have made our presence known. The room was silent for a moment as the officials processed his words. Understood, Captain. President Simmons replied, her voice firm. We will begin preparations immediately. The entire world is behind you and your crew. Earth will not fall. Drake nodded, his chest swelling with pride. The world had rallied behind them. And now, Earth was ready to face whatever came next. It wasn't just about defending the planet anymore. It was about securing humanity's future in a galaxy filled with unknowns. Thank you, President, Drake said, his voice resolute. We'll keep you updated. Stay ready. Humanity's future depends on it. The transmission ended, and Drake turned back to his crew. They had been through a lot, but the hardest part was yet to come. They had made their stand, and now they would prepare for the next wave. The Resolute was more than a ship now. It was a symbol of humanity's strength. This is just the beginning, Drake said quietly. We've proven we can fight back. Now we make sure the galaxy knows that Earth is not a target. We are a force to be reckoned with. The crew stood together, their resolve stronger than ever. Earth was no longer the underdog in the galaxy. With the Resolute leading the charge, humanity had entered a new era, and they were ready to face whatever came next. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, humanity's place in the stars was assured. The silence of space was broken by the hum of the Resolute's engines as it drifted through the stars. Its crew gathered at their stations, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and determination. The battle was over, but the war had only begun. Captain Nathan Drake stood on the bridge, staring out at the vast expanse of space. The Resolute was battered, its systems strained from the intense battle, but it had withstood everything the alien armada had thrown at it. We've come a long way, Lieutenant Alvarez said, his voice reflecting the weight of what they had accomplished. And we've done it together. Earth, we've proven we can survive anything. Drake nodded, his mind still focused on what was to come. They had defeated the alien forces that had threatened Earth, but they had also made enemies in the process. There would be other challenges ahead, challenges that Earth wasn't prepared for yet. But with the Resolute and its crew, humanity had taken the first step into becoming a force in the galaxy. Amazing what we've accomplished, Lieutenant Garcia added, looking over the damage reports. The Resolute might be scared, but she's still standing. And so are we. Drake's eyes scanned the crew. They had fought alongside him, trusted him, and now they were all facing the reality that Earth was no longer a quiet planet in the corner of the galaxy. They were now a known power, and that brought both pride and danger. Captain, we've received a new communication from Earth. Athena, the ship's AI, interrupted his thoughts. They're requesting an update. Put it through, Drake said, taking a deep breath. He had spent so much time worrying about the alien threat that he hadn't stopped to consider the consequences of their victory. The screen flickered to life, and President Simmons appeared again. Her face was tired but determined, a reflection of the weight on her shoulders. Captain, she said, her tone steady, we've seen the reports. Earth's future looks brighter than ever, but we know this victory is just the beginning. What's the next step for humanity? How do we move forward in this new era? Drake stood tall, his eyes locked on the screen. We begin preparing for what's next. The galaxy is full of dangers, and we've only just revealed ourselves. We've made our mark, and now it's time to make sure no one underestimates us again. The Resolute will lead Earth's charge, but we need to ensure we're ready for the challenges ahead. Simmons nodded. The whole planet stands behind you, Captain. We're ready to face whatever comes next. Earth will not be a target again." Drake's heart swelled with pride. Humanity was no longer weak. They had proven that they could stand strong in the face of unimaginable odds. But there was still work to be done. "We'll be ready," Drake replied. "We'll continue to defend Earth, and we'll make sure our enemies know that Earth is not to be underestimated. The Resolute and its crew will be the symbol of humanity's strength in the galaxy." The transmission ended, and Drake turned back to his crew. They had won the battle, but there was still so much to be done. The Resolute was just the beginning. Humanity had a long road ahead, but one thing was certain. They were no longer helpless. They were now a power to be reckoned with. "Let's get back to work," Drake said. "We've got a future to protect." And as the Resolute sailed through the stars, the crew knew that Earth had taken its first step toward becoming a galactic power. The road ahead would be difficult, but humanity was ready. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead.